Hi, my name is Jibran, and welcome to Unlisted with Sam Malik. And I am still blown away from the last episode, Sam. And um, it's such a vast topic that we're talking about. But before we start, how are you? How do you handle all this?
I'm well and I handle it pretty well. I stay centered and I know that, mm, I'll change my mind tomorrow about this stuff and I'm very relaxed.
I'm really happy to
I
hear
let
that.
ideas evolve.
Nice
Yeah,
shirt,
I
man.
let life evolve.
Nice
Thank
shirt.
you.
You look
Thank
good
you.
today.
Thanks.
All right. So the topic that we were doing the last time, and we did a live session, was are we here forever? It's one of the big questions everybody
Yes.
has at some point in time in their lives. And a version of this basically is what's the purpose of humans, or what's the purpose of us being here? It basically is a coined term, but the question when it's phrased as how are we here forever is actually has a bigger ambit and scope, and we had a few discussions revolving around it in the last episode. But for the people who haven't watched the last stream, they can actually go to our YouTube channel, that's Unlisted Talks, and they can watch that. But just to give a little recap, if Sam, you can take us through it.
Yeah, last time we talked about, are we here forever in terms of what is life? Perhaps what are some of the purposes of life? What is space? What is time? Just briefly touching on all these things, being human centric rather than scientific, and also how man projects the universe rather than is, poor, innocent prisoner of it. Man exerts control, and so we talked about some of those things. And when we were talking about the relativity of space and time, you mentioned, drugs. But by that I mean shrooms and psychedelics and things like that. And I thought we should talk more about that.
That is true.
And and of course we need to talk a little bit more about death, and what happens afterwards. If you're going to address the forever, you know.
Yeah, actually, you're right, because you did mention about death being it's it's not an opposite to life, but absence of life, and of course there's more to it. Can't be just put into simply one word. Okay, we'll get there.
Well, I said something else also, and that's one definition of life. One definition of the purpose of life. I said death is the purpose of life.
That is true.
Um, yeah.
We will circle back to this, because we would also like to know, because to my curious mind, I think, would you define death as the purpose or as the destination? So we'll circle back to that. But before that, we left the conversation around the aspect of time and space. So let's pick up from time and see how time dilation, or the changing the length of time, or the speed of time through certain drugs is possible. Well, what does that actually mean? What does that? How do you integrate that particular thing, that kind of an experience, with what we're talking about here?
Okay. So there are certain hallucinogenics in which you completely lose the sense of this timeline and also the sense of this space. I mean, you start hallucinating, you start seeing things which are not there. Um, and you don't know what time frame you are operating in. Some trips can last forever in your head, yet they are only a few hours. And so, it's interesting because when we talk about life, we have to talk about life We have to include several types of experiences in life, including people who are on drugs. They are alive also. People in coma are alive. Babies who are in their mother's wombs, they are also alive. Yet they're not having the same experiences that we are having. Also, when we sleep, we are still alive, but we are not having similar experiences with other people who are awake and alive. So, to discuss anything wisely or with an attempt to being wise, we must be very inclusive, right? We have to cover all these possibilities. I think the most interesting aspect of hallucinogenics is the discovery that perhaps when we are sober and living a normal life, we are still hallucinating. So we've learned how to accept that particular hallucination, because there's a whole lot of us having that hallucination at the same time. But what we call normal life possibly is another hallucination also. And I find that to be fascinating. And we can step out of it or go back to it. That is also very interesting if we take certain substances. Um, our reality is not really as concrete as we would like to think. I myself am not a great proponent of hallucinogenics, but I think it's a unique experience if you at least learn this from it, that reality is a relative thing. And then step back into this reality if you're comfortable with it. That experience can hardly be verbalized. It's an experience.
But you see, now what it sounds to me from what you're saying, there is a concept of reality, life, which is more closer to consciousness than what merely doing functions and things in life. So did I get it right or wrong there? Because it does seem like that consciousness is one of the keys that will eventually determine what living actually is in a bigger spectrum of reality, a reality which probably is not what's visible. It's both the visible and the invisible part combined together. If you call that reality, and in that realm, then consciousness, higher consciousness, would perhaps mean more closer to living.
Well, Gibran, I don't want to, create a hierarchy. So somebody who's in a coma is still experiencing consciousness, and they can stay in a coma for many years and not remember a single moment of it, or just remember a few moments of it, and they are still experiencing consciousness at some level. A child in a mother's womb has normally does not have any memory of what happened in the womb, but is a conscious being. Um, there's another thing you asked me in the last session, which I think kind of ties in with this one, which is the ordinary people who choose to do the 9 to 5 for various reasons, and lead a regular, normal, even boring life. So, when I was saying that we as individuals and man or the human as a collective are projecting this reality, I think we need those people, and we need them in a vast majority, because they are reinforcing uh, the reality that we are experiencing, right? So if we have the ability to manipulate the universe, or to change it, or to influence it at some level or the other, the vast majority of people are creating our baseline. They are creating what we call regular reality. And when we deviate from it in a spiritual experience through hallucinogenics, we need to come back to their reality. They're not useless people. They are very important people. Because if you're going off on a trip for 5 to 10 hours and you come back and you need to eat something, well, you need them, right? They are the ones um, who are going to get the food for you, or if you're feeling sick, they are the ones who will heal you. So I think their role, even though it sounds boring and whatnot, is very important. They give us a stable ground at least, right? And the lucky few of us can play around that ground. They're not interested. They're okay with whatever they're doing, but because of them, the universe looks the way it does, and we can walk on the earth. And we think, you drink water, your thirst will go away. So I genuinely believe man has tremendous power of creating this reality individually and collectively. And the individuals who deviate from it, we often think they're very, very special. Yeah, they are. They're brave. They're special. But then they have to turn back to the collective reality. And the billions of people creating that are creating the stability of the universe, of this experience. Um,
Well, it sounds really fair actually to say what you've said, because you need some sort of a yardstick to come back to or to compare it with. Um,
yes,
it's you need that baseline to evaluate and self-assess whether you have actually superseded that or you've kind of gone dipped below it. We need that. This is true. I'm going to come back to you with this question later, but I'm going to give you a little tinkle on that. Is all those people, the masses that we were talking about, the 9 to 5, there's nothing wrong actually, and of course, it's completely understandable. But for those who are able to break past that barrier, when they come back to the reality, the normal, let's call it the normal, are they able to bring some benefit off to the other people, the standard baseline people? And
oh wow.
this is something, because otherwise we are only talking about individual experiences and not really contributing back into a collective phenomena. So this does raise a question at that point.
Yes, I understand. Well, some of them scare the normal people, right? And they convince them even further to stay normal. Some of them are considered crazy loonies by normal
Yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So in a way, they are reinforcing their reality, and some of them are looked down upon as deviants or social outcasts. And once again, they are reinforcing the collective reality. And I think that's all right. I think but one thing they do bring to the table, Gibran, is that our sense of reality is very delicate, and it's not really there. We are experiencing it, but perhaps there is something else going on which we are not understanding. So this message they do bring back to you, and people do internalize at least this part, right? And so why is that important? Because we ultimately don't need to take life too seriously. When we take it really seriously, or our life too seriously, or our existence too seriously, it starts turning into trauma. And these people relieve you from your trauma. They're saying, okay, you're going, we
Uh,
have this fixed life. Don't take it that seriously. Do it, live it, but don't be obsessed with it. Don't worship your own prison or your own traps or your own limitations. Relax and let's see what happens. So this message helps everyone, I think.
that's true.
I don't
That's
know.
true.
Huh.
No, actually, it's right. I mean, there is no right or wrong answer to this. It's everybody may have their own version of how they are able to contribute, and that is definitely one way. Okay.
Chibran, I
Spoken.
think anybody who can expand the spectrum of what we call the human is welcome. right? Unless they're killing
True.
people and harming people,
True.
I think they're welcome. The wider the spectrum, the more powerful we become as a collective,
That is true.
I think.
No, no, absolutely. As long as there's no
So,
harm and foul.
yes,
Um,
yes. So let me give you a simple example. I mean, an ordinary person, let's say their mother beat them up when they were a kid, and they're carrying this trauma around, and suddenly they meet a person who says, who cares, man? That really helps. I
yeah.
mean, you have to realize bad things happen to you, and you're feeling very emotional about them. But so what? I mean, there is a point where you have to say, okay, so what? Was it a real experience? Why am I worshipping this experience? Why can't I let go? So I think these people help with that. They create a lightness of being.
That is actually true. I mean, I just imagine or I just wonder staying in a higher state of vibrations. I'm going to circle back to this word because you and I had quite a lot of conversations about vibrations and how that is yet another topic though. Yeah, if you're buzzing with those higher vibrations all the time, I mean, I wonder that can be really scary. Coming back from a descent is also another another challenge to come back to the normal. Um,
Yes, that's why spiritual traditions which have a discipline discourage a temporary drug-induced higher vibration. Instead, they teach you how to earn it through meditation, through various other techniques, through chanting, through whatnot, so that going up and coming down becomes a little easy on you. It can be pretty harsh on the body and the mind, when it's drug induced versus when you're learning how to control it, right?
that's
When you're
true. Uh, so
e-
when you're learning
even though the
naturally it doesn't happen
even
right away, you know.
no, it doesn't. You have to
Ah,
earn it. You have to work on it. Even though both experiences to a degree are very similar, right? But yes, you're right. There's a lot of work involved, and people would rather take the shortcut and pop a pill.
you
Uh,
know,
but then,
I have a connotation to this. It's it's like having instant coffee and having a
mhm.
mocha pot and trying to make your own brew. Both are coffee. You're
Yeah,
experiencing
yes.
caffeine, but there's a huge difference in taste and its composition and how you control it and how you go about it and the kind of pleasure it gives you. An instant one will give you the same kind of pleasure every single time. So yeah, it's easy. Of course, you don't have to put in all those years of effort and slowly climb that growth ladder in order to get into that zone. Um,
Gibran, I think when you work on it, it becomes part of your evolutionary process. And when you pop a pill, it's disruptive. And there is a difference between evolution and disruption. Um, I think, you know, uh, it's totally worth it if you dedicate yourself to experiencing something like that,
but Sam, that would
without
also
chemical induction. Yeah.
but that's also a matter of, I mean, it's largely dependent on how much time you're able to put into this and how much effort. And this, mind you, for people who don't know what we're talking about, these kind of things usually take years before you get somewhere. When
They can take years. They can, but they can also happen to you even involuntarily, right? Sometimes they happen to you too. And if you have a guide or somebody to take you through the journey, it can be quicker. But yes, but if you're not even looking for this, then you will not experience it, right? Um, so you talked about you said something like, is in the last session you said something like, is freedom life or is it a component of life? I think every human being needs to touch freedom once. Even if we can't maintain it and live in freedom on this planet, we need to internally experience freedom at some moment, right? So any effort we make towards that, so you're sitting in your office, you're doing your 9 to 5 job, your computer's in front of you, and if you take a break and just go inwards and say, "I'm free," I'm not here right now. This is not me. That really reboots you. That really re-energizes you, raises your vibration. Um, Instead of sitting there saying, "I'm trapped," and "Oh my God, I'm a prisoner to the system." So freedom, yeah, freedom is a very important component of life. But when do we experience it? How do we find it? Um, that's very individual and really varied, right? Um, so I
Okay.
don't know.
So with freedom, I'll give you two things. And for those of you who don't know what freedom we're talking about, that probably might have a different meaning than what you generally use this word for. Do watch the first part of Are We Here Forever? Secondly,
Yes.
well, some people do take their free time. I mean, they use it in they use different terminology for it, and their actions may be slightly different. But I think the eventual quest of freedom is the same. For example, people who do 9 to 5, they get burnt out after months, and those annual leave concept is actually exactly for them to use this in the same way. So what they do is they'll book a destination, they'll just go. Some people will hit the beach, some people need it earlier than the others, and they'll probably take a weekend off or have a long break and just get away from that 9 to 5 thing. We Whether you like it or you don't, whether you think you want it or you don't, one way or another you actually need it. So
Yes.
basically what Sam's trying to say is, consciously, if you try to approach it, is going to be a more organic way to attain that freedom.
We all want to walk in the park and go to the beach, and almost all of us want to be on the mountain and reconnect with our primitive nature. I don't have a better word than that. Pre-industrial nature.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. The more organic side of us.
Yes, and then those who choose more industrialized things, race cars or para jumping, they are also they are also reconnecting with the primordial hunt or the tribal war. All of that is within us, and these moments of elation kind of give us freedom from the. It's not freedom from the world; it's freedom from the character we have become, the fiction we have internalized, right?
Yeah.
So we still have a body and we still have a limitation. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how seriously we've taken the idea of me being Salman Malik and sitting here talking to you. Um, it's a fun thing to do at the end of the day, and
Yeah.
let's keep it that way.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, the two things which I want you to speak about, and they both can and are probably interrelated as well. So one is reincarnation, and the other is, you already spoke about earlier, was death. And why we're
Yes.
talking about reincarnation or death, or primarily it's death, and then it can be a reincarnation if there is because this entire topic revolves around the key word of life. So define death in reference to life, or maybe keep life on one side and then see what death is and then what reincarnation is. How do you look at it?
Okay. I think, I'll have to give you my own personal version of it. I personally don't believe in reincarnation. Not in the same way that other people do, at least. So we have life going on, and then we have our ego, which is our identity, which is helping us experience life. So I'm experiencing life as Sam right now,
Okay.
and you are experiencing life as Gibran right now. And Gibran and Sam are our ego identities, right? They're not our true identities. They're temporary. They will keep changing. We will keep adapting. There is, we are part of the collective human, yet we are individuals. But life will continue. So at the moment of death, when the ego dies, this ego identity dies, uh, is life recircled or recycled? Possibly. Possibly you will become another person, you know, maybe a woman or something else. But since the ego has been left behind, is it really you we are talking about then? Or we are talking about two separate things, the ego identity and life? Nothing can stop life. Life has been going on for a long time, or at least gives us the illusion for that. But the other trick, the other problem here, Chibran, is the minute we talk about, oh, life is eternal and it's been going on forever and it will repeat itself. This is again talk of space and time, which are illusions for while we have our ego identity in this universe, right? So even our language is a trap. We are looking at life, we don't know what it is, yet we are saying, giving it a timeline, and talking about space and how it is unfolding within that space. But I think all of these things finish when you die. There are many cultures which believe in different things. Um, when you become part of the bigger life, not the individual life, yes, you do go on and on and on. Or maybe because we are very limited by our imaginations, something else happens. Um, Even life transforms into something we don't have the recognition of or the vocabulary of. So that's why I think in this particular lifespan, it's very important to have a taste of freedom. The freedom, including stepping back from these questions, right? Uh, to just be for a moment, to just enjoy what is happening to you, to enjoy the mystery of it and how hard it is, and yet you are able to deal with it, to pat yourself on the shoulder. You're doing a good job, and you're enjoying this. You're enjoying the confusion, the mystery, the unanswered questions. Yet you're operating. Um, so there are cultures which believe in reincarnation. And one of the most interesting explanations I heard of people who think they are reincarnated is going back to one of our earlier topics, the jinn. That jinns as beings have a lifespan which is very different from ours. They can live for thousands of years. And if you are possessed by such a jinn, uh, and I know it sounds crazy just saying this right now, but when you hear that video, you will understand what I'm saying. And the jinn shares their experience with you, or their identity with you. Then you think, yeah, in the last, I used to be somebody else, and uh, I can remember or recall parts of my previous life, but perhaps it's a jinn playing tricks on you. And then once again, who am I, right? I'm nobody. I look at it from my own spiritual perspective. Reincarnation may be possible, but my question then remains: if it's not me anymore, somebody else, are we here forever? I don't think Salman Malik is here forever.
So it's not a cycle, it's a starting point to an end point. And
Perhaps. Yes.
every beginning has an end.
I think so. If something is beginning, so if life is eternal, then it has no beginning, then it has no end. But Salman Malik has a beginning and an ending.
So the
And
differentiation here is the pure identity or the real being that we're talking about versus the Salman Malik ego-defined identity in material and ether. They're two separate things we're talking about. Do we have to differentiate
Yes.
between them?
Yes, I think life is an entity separate from us. We are experiencing it, it's happening to us. It's not us. I'm alive, but I'm not life itself. Uh, I feel like I am part of life, but a part of it, right? Um, I don't have a claim to life. Will it happen to me again? I don't think so. It will happen to somebody else or another version of me, not me. So while I'm here, I want to enjoy this whole experience and
I
relax through it.
I know we're running out of time and you're a busy man, and today I know you we had to keep the session short, but there's so many questions that pop they pop up in your mind, because with every explanation there is, it's like a child's mind is, everything has to be questioned, everything needs to be asked. I tend to have that kind of a thought process which is still alive for some reason.
Nice, that's great. That's awesome.
Though some people do claim that I haven't really grown up, when it comes to these kind of things. But besides the joke, you were mentioning earlier about something, and specifically about how the jinns interact with man, and then you have certain experiences in reference to reincarnation. But if I deviate from, say, reincarnation and probably take you to this common thing that most people have experienced, is called deja vu. I know I've just put you off. You've just taken you. But do think, where would you put that kind of an experience? Because that is a little
Interesting.
beyond normal,
Yeah. Yes, it is. And yet it happens to so many people, right? So I think, Gibran, there are all kinds of glitches in space and time too. And deja vu is one of those. Not fair to call it a glitch, but I'm limited by the words I know. But the ego, which is separating us from life or the divine or the universe, sometimes experiences a break in its make believe and actually gets connected with everything. And then it doesn't know how to translate that connection.
Yeah.
It gets translated into deja vu or a vision or a hallucination or a prophecy. But ultimately, we are all interconnected. We are all part of the big universe, inseparable from it, of course. We are all alive. We are we are divine-like creatures. And when the ego sometimes forgets to play its role, then we get connected with all of this enormity and eternity and foreverness. And that moment causes bizarre events to take place in our life, one of which is deja vu. So we can also say perhaps we die momentarily and then are reborn at that moment. And when we are reborn, we deal with whatever experience we've had, and we say, "Oh, this has happened to me before. I have been here before. I've experienced this moment of space and time before." The key element is space and time there, right? It's a moment repeating itself. That's my take on it. That
Hold on.
ultimately we are all in.
I had a deja vu moment just right now.
Wow.
No,
Right now?
No, right now. I think I've done this before with you. This interaction. No, sorry, it's not a deja vu, dude. We actually did that a couple of days ago. I'm just messing with you. But yeah, sorry. I know I'm such a bummer. Sometimes it's such a serious conversation and I can't just keep my
Well, both are okay with me. Both are okay with me, whether you had a deja vu or you didn't.
But on a serious note, one last question, and I know it's big, but I think it would be best that we discuss it within this stream, because I don't want it to be disconnected from this conversation. I wanted to stay within the ambit
Okay.
and this conversation, right? Which is that if deja vus or something like deja vus take us and shifts our timelines, so there could be multiple timelines existent in this universe, right? We live on a certain timeline. For people who ascend, basically transit from one timeline to another. That's how you control time, right? Isn't this a testimony by itself that humans are capable of switching timelines, changing them, or coexisting, or say exist in multiple timelines at the same time? And the
Thank you.
simplest example is for everybody who can relate to, um, so people who dream, they might dream the entire night. That's a feeling they will have, that oh, it was such a long dream, it took hours and hours. But in reality, or scientifically, how it's been evaluated is that dreams are just merely for a few minutes. So is that a little key or a cue for us to understand timelines? And
Yes.
all
Yes.
right.
So, I think it's a divine trick, Gibran, and it's lovely. Um, we often don't appreciate, or we look down upon people who are taking drugs, but a similar experience inevitably happens to us when we are dreaming. So we are required to think about different timelines and how the imagery we are experiencing in space and time is not real. So it's built into life. When we dream, um, we're not we're not experiencing the universe through our five senses anymore, right?
Oh
And
yes.
everything changes. Everything changes. And yet it's a complete experience. I mean, we remember the story, we remember what happened, the emotions we felt. In addition to that, Jabran, I think already human beings have access to at least seven timelines. Each chakra has its own space
Ah,
and its own time.
right.
And it's a question of where we are operating within even our body. Where are we operating? Um, and that's part of the spiritual discipline that I really appreciate. We are very, very dynamic. Religious texts often call our internal chakras the seven heavens and the seven earths. So I
Wow.
think there
Yeah.
is, yeah. So we are time traveling within the seven heavens and earths, and there are portals which are connecting us to the seven realities already present within us. And perhaps the last one, which is the earth chakra, is the only one that will die. I'm not so sure.
Wow.
And yeah, but that's maybe we can talk about that when we
I think we
at some
should,
point talk
because
about.
because I think it's one of those things which at least gives us a new language when we speak about the unseen world and supernaturals. The language of the chakras, or at least their definition or their basic understanding to everybody, will actually give them a certain, let's call it a language for them, so they'll understand a lot more things and how they're connected to us.
I
Maybe
love the
it's
word. I love the word language because to discuss something or anything or to experience it, we must have words and language. And you're
right.
right. This is an expansion in our language.
So maybe we can just have a session on chakras, probably, and what do they mean, what do they refer to, or what's a preliminary understanding we need to have, or how do we look at them as a language per se. Before we do anything else, maybe next episode or next live session should be about that.
Sure, sure, it
All right.
would be a pleasure. And
Sounds good.
it will also be the foundation for many more conversations, I feel.
That's the whole purpose of going through that exercise. I think we should. Well, I think, Sam, thank you so very much for being with us today. And I know your time's so valuable, and we kind of steal it every now and then. We tell you, okay, this is going to be 15 minutes, and we take about an hour. Thank you for bearing with us. And
Gibran, this is so enjoyable that I give you the hour. Thank you.
no,
It's
thank
a
you.
pleasure talking to you.
And I love these sessions. I don't know, for people who watch it, do you guys like it or not? I mean, be honest, it's okay even if you don't. But do mention, do press the subscribe button and the bell icon so you get notifications once we go live or there's a new video that's uploaded. For people who want to get in touch with Sam for private healing sessions, I'll put up the link in the description and also on the screen. Get in touch with Sam through his website, which is healedbylife.com, or you can also watch, and you should also watch his YouTube videos. They're quite something. Thank you guys for being with us. Thank you, Sam. It was a pleasure to have you once again. And speak to you very soon.
All right, Gibran. Take
Ciao,
care.
man. Take care. Bye-bye.